You're listening to Beast Over Burden, powered by Barbell Logic.
We're Nikki and Andrew, your personal professional coaches.
We help you take control of your fitness through hard but doable training and nutrition practices that fit your busy life.
Build a stronger, healthier version of yourself with lifelong habits. Hello, Beast Over Burden listeners. This is the Beast Over Burden podcast powered by Barbell Logic. I'm your host, Nikki Sims. I am the Chief Experience Officer at Barbell Logic. I am also a strength coach and a nutrition coach. With me is Andrew Jackson.
Good afternoon.
Andrew is the Chief Operations Officer. He is the product manager for our software turnkey coach. He, like me, is a strength coach and a nutrition coach. Happy 2025, everybody. It's good to have you here. We're excited about this new thing that we're working on with the podcast, that this kicks us off today.
Kicking us off in a very special year. 2025 is a perfect square year, which is rare. It'll probably be the last time in my lifetime that we get there.
That makes me so happy.
45 squared, Dad. 2025. Just wanted to tee that up.
Well, I was excited about it. I just love multiples of 5. Maybe that's why I am where I am at in my professional life right now. but 5's make me happy. I'm turning 40 this year. 25 is a great number. So it's a big one. And what we're going to do, a little change. We've dabbled in this before with the podcast, but for Beast Over Burden, we're going to get into some series where we talk about a more focused topic over a couple to a few episodes where we get to dig in to a more concentrated discussion around things that are very related. And I'm excited about the topics we're going to come up with this year. We have been chatting about this one for a while, Andrew and I, just in our everyday life because it's so important. And Andrew has coined this phrase that I love called physical freedom. You heard us talk about it a bit in our previous podcasts. And what we're going to start with on this first series is physical freedom and nutrition. Strength training, fitness training does have a very important part of being physically free, but it is so important that we talk about nutrition and how it supports that. What do you think, Andrew?
Yeah, just to remind the listeners of where that came from, the term inspired really from thinking about or borrowing from the idea of financial freedom, which is, in my opinion, largely about getting to a point where you are able to do what you want with your time. And I perceive money as a tool to exchange your time for goods and services, and becoming financial free is a process from my perspective of getting to a point where you have enough financial, essentially, assets to be free to do whatever you want with your time, because you basically earned enough time in the form of money to then be able to do whatever you want with your time. So the concept of physical freedom occurred to me because a lot of what we'd been talking about lately after doing this for years and years and years is that we are getting to a point with our training where we are able to do what we want with our bodies because we've accrued enough habits, similar to financial freedom, which is really accruing a series of habits that enable you to accumulate the ability to have that time, that freedom with your time. Physical freedom is, I believe, the skill of acquiring and compiling a group of habits that enable you to do what you want with your body, which I think is really fun.
It is. I agree.
And similar to financial freedom, there's a certain level of discipline that is required. Like with any habit, you have to repeat certain behaviors enough times for it to actually give you that ability to do what you want. And also, I think part of it from a psychological perspective, from my perspective and from my experience, has been that those habits become joyful. Those are things that you actually enjoy. It doesn't mean you just do whatever anytime you want, but it's that you have, and I think we'll talk about this concept of a baseline, that you have this baseline of habits that get you to a point with your body that you have the freedom to sometimes do those habits and sometimes not. And you can ebb and flow with where you are. And there's never a point where you're either having to white knuckle or dread what you're doing or suffer. you get to make conscious choices to do what you want because you know what levers to pull in order to feel the way that you want in your body. Granted, there are going to always be exceptions to this, just like with financial freedom or other aspects of life. Things happen. People get sick. People get ill. People get injured. That is part of it. So it's not to say that it's all sunshine and roses and perfect and happy and that you just, do whatever you want, whenever you want. There's trade-offs always. But I do think that we have developed some tools and some perspectives and some habits and some strategies that I think work for most people most of the time, even with some of those, suboptimal situations, to move people towards more physical freedom. And on the nutrition front, I think nutrition is a great place to start because if your recovery, we've talked about this before, nutrition, I think, is one of the key drivers of your recovery capacity, your ability to either build muscle or recover from whatever your stress is, fuel your energy levels and just your day-to-day kind of life. If you don't have habits that support your physical goals, it doesn't matter what you're doing with your training or other aspects of your physical freedom. Nothing's going to change because you have to fuel the change that you want.
Yeah, you can have a great training program, but if your eating and your recovery is garbage, training doesn't feel good. It actually feels bad and you get hurt. So it has to, like you said, support what you're doing. And I had another comparison to the financial aspect of this. Like, we both use YNAB, love YNAB, shout out. Using YNAB really allows you to do is to roll with the punches. And you said things are going to happen that you did not want to happen, nor did you plan to happen. It was not in your ideal scenario, but sometimes it's out of our control. But when you have your baseline, when you have behaviors that make you feel good and healthy, and you have maintained muscle mass, you are more able to roll with the punches when fewer things are in your control. And you come out on the other side in a much better state if you hadn't got yourself into that position. And so, like you were talking about, creating these habits that turn into behaviors, that turn into, who you are, it sets you up to be a person who can more easily take care of themselves. And I think that's really huge. That's what freedom is you take ownership for how you feel instead of thinking, this is happening to my body. This body composition is happening to me. This injury is happening to me. No, physical freedom is you choosing the trade-offs that you want to make. And then you take ownership of them and you take action. And that feels way better than just sitting there thinking that this is all happening to you. Big difference.
Well said.
Yeah. So on the nutrition front, I think it'd be cool to talk about some recent examples that we've each experienced. And we're definitely, like you said, we're going to get into very tactical, like, here's how you decide where you're going. Here's how you get your baseline. Here's how you make changes. Here's how you navigate the challenge that you're going to experience. But for you who are listening, I'd love for you to start feeling out how this might have already come up for you. And I think that'll be helpful if we talk about how it's come up for us.
Sure. The journey for me, I think, is that for the vast majority of my life, I was unhappy with how I thought my body looked. And I was constantly trying to achieve a certain image. We talked about this a lot during the Jake Gyllenhaal
Fight Club.
/ Fight Club story where
Yes.
I wanted to look like that, essentially starving, boxing, or whatever you want to even call that body type. But the Brad Pitt, Jake Gyllenhaal, six-pack abs, striated veins, and what I would consider kind of skinny at this point in my life. But it was partly I think a false goal. Like, it was a goal that I didn't actually want, because as I have lived more life and have been at different levels of body type, I don't know that I would ever say I looked like Brad Pitt and Jake Gyllenhaal, but I did get to a point where I had six-pack abs and, was kind of directionally close to that. But being there required that I was essentially starving. I was literally starving,
Yep.
you know,
Yeah.
at officer candidate school, where they forced us to eat for the first 2 or 3 weeks with one large spoon, like giant spoon. But the meals would be something like chicken, like on a bone.
Oh my God.
Food you couldn't eat with a spoon, and you had to sit there and, you know, it was just part of like the hazing process essentially, or, you know, breaking you down. But I had just finished 4 years of rowing as a Division I athlete. So I was already in really good shape, and I was preparing for officer candidate school. So I was running on top of rowing, and I was actively managing my calories. I think I was somewhere close to 2,000, between 2,000 and 2,500 calories as a 21-year-old Division I athlete.
So not many.
Not many.
Low cal.
And there were some other questionable things that were occurring as I was running at night. Sometimes I would go running after dinner, and that was conducive to, if I ran hard enough, I would get sick along the way.
Oh no. And you probably thought like, oh good.
There were some calories that I lost at times from running that hard. And then going into OCS, where then I couldn't eat in some cases. And, you know, there were these very rushed feeding sessions. I can remember looking in the mirror one morning. I woke up and there they were, 6-pack abs. But I was pretty miserable. So anyways, a bit of a long story there, but I had an image of what I thought I wanted that when I got it, nothing involved around that is what I wanted. And as I've trained more for strength, worked with nutrition coaches, and actually fueled my body to train the way that I like to train and do the things that I like to do. And I actually did get to a point where I was pretty dang lean and right kind of on that edge of 6-pack abs, but I was eating probably closer to like 3,500 calories to 4,000 sometimes a day.
Wow.
Lifting 4 times a week, heavy, 4 or 5, sometimes 6 times a week. And since then have come to actually enjoy quite a range of body fat percentage, I guess you call it, body weight, waist sizes, because I enjoy the things that go along with that. You know, the lifestyle. So again, for me, the journey has gone from thinking that I needed to eat and work out in a way to look a certain way, to eat and work out in order to feel and experience life a certain way. And that it doesn't have to be the same all the time. So most recent example for me is going into the holiday season. I knew that I wanted to experience the holidays in a certain way. I wanted to be able to enjoy all the food, enjoy the drink, to let go of certain habits that I have, to be completely honest. You know, I was eating at relatives' houses. I was, traveling. I was eating at restaurants more, eating in situations where I had zero or limited control. And I was able to, based on my experiences and some of the things I think we'll talk about, make decisions where I wasn't weighing and measuring. I wasn't even using hand size or portion sizes, but I was able to prioritize the way that I could manage or influence food that I ate in order to keep protein relatively high, to keep total calories not totally insane.
Get vegetables. I saw you shovel greens into your
exactly.
into your face.
To prioritize getting green things, to have certain activities prioritized. But I wasn't beating myself up because I didn't execute to some exact prescribed plan. I was just making some trade-offs to enjoy that period of time. And now, January 3rd, I am heavier than I want to be. At some point in the future, it's not where I want to be all the time. I have more body fat than I want. And my favorite part about it, though, is because I've developed this baseline of habits and, routines that I like, I am excited. I am so excited right now and looking forward to this next stretch of time where I'm going to get back into the baseline routine and habits And I'm excited about how it's going to feel. And I don't feel like I'm having to white knuckle some diet, quote unquote. I'm actually getting back to foods that I love eating that I haven't really been consistently eating for the last few months because I've been enjoying this other phase. And I love it. And I know, in fact, I started tracking yesterday. And my baseline is like, I've got to the end of the day, I'm like, oh my God, I need to eat like another 1,000 calories to fuel my training. But I had already eaten all the things that I really wanted to. I like made all the meals that I wanted.
Protein was good.
I hit my protein goal and was like, wow, okay. So my baseline day that I actually enjoy is 1,000 to 1,500 calories under what I probably need to fuel my training. So I had to like add in some more food pretty much, I mean, almost entirely to offset. I think that my baseline, or at least what I've been eating for the last few months, wasn't wildly different than what I'm doing now, but I was was a lot more liberal with desserts, alcohol, beer, wine, etc. And that's probably where I was getting the excess calories because it doesn't take a whole lot of that to add up to a couple thousand calories when you're drinking heavy IPAs. But what does it look like for you?
Well, real quick before I say that, I think what's cool about what you just said is that in both circumstances, the one where it was holiday time and in the present circumstances, you're enjoying being there.
Right.
And you're going to be able to handle whatever comes with it. Like when we were getting into the fall, we had a bunch of travel. We knew Thanksgiving and Christmas were coming up. We were just like, let's enjoy this. And we ended up a little fluffier, but really nothing like bad at all. Like we didn't gain 15 pounds. Like we're fine, And I think when you let yourself enjoy stuff like moments like that, travel, eating, you don't overindulge because you feel safe just enjoying it.
Right.
You don't think, I better make the best of this because it's going away forever. It's just, you can safely enjoy it. And then you're going to do something different that you enjoy when you feel like it. I think that's a huge aspect of physical freedom when it comes to nutrition.
Yeah, that's a great point. And one of the things I noticed this holiday versus holidays in the past, where I was during periods of time where I was, quote, I thought I was managing my nutrition more carefully, is that it was extremely common for me to eat to a point of significant discomfort, physical pain. And that didn't happen once.
I think it happened while we were in Mexico for your birthday.
Okay, that did happen. That happened
because we had a chef who was just like, eat all this delicious food, and we like really tried to stop ourselves, but it was so good. It was really challenging.
But I would say it would be normal for me to feel like that in the past.
Oh, yeah, no, you really did not like it. It was really obvious that you were like, this is not how I want to act.
Yeah. That's a huge example of physical freedom that is different for me, is that whereas the past, when I felt like I had to, in order to achieve my goals, I needed to be on a quote unquote diet, I would not pay attention to how I felt ever, because I was only paying attention to what I was supposed to quote unquote eat, or what I wanted, or what I thought I wanted. And so I would just,
or how you thought you were supposed to look,
way overindulge when I wasn't on the quote unquote diet. I was literally till the point of pain because I just wanted to eat more food. Or I thought I needed more protein, or I thought I needed more calories at one point in time,
right.
So it's like, but I wasn't paying attention at all to how I feel. Whereas now I feel like I'm way more interested in how I feel, and I notice how eating certain ways feels, and I know what feels good and what doesn't feel good, and what, generally speaking, feels like it's going to support my training and body composition goals, and what's not. I know what that feels like because I've done enough over a long enough period of time to recognize that. And that's really what defines my baseline. Is ideally, I think a good baseline should be the one that feels good day to day, enables you to enjoy your food, and supports your training and your body type goals.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk about the baseline. I think we're going to do that in a couple episodes, because it's like coming back to your safe place. It's not anything you need to be punished about. It's setting yourself up in a way to feel really good and not have to feel regret. You can even feel excitement about it. And I think that's a superpower to be able to come up with that. Yeah. But I'll give you my little physical freedom moments that have come up lately. It's coming up a lot for me now getting into my 40s. And I don't know if everybody's Instagram feed and podcast feed is just blowing up with how awful menopause is. But man, talk about some fear mongering. Like just hearing how tough that's going to be and what it's like trying to hold on to lean body mass, energy changes, body composition changes, hormone changes, and also just looking at other women who are around my age and older and looking at my progression from, my 20s and 30s to where I am now. I really love being at the beach and being in a bikini and being warm. And so that's what we do for my birthday now, apparently. And I love it. And so I want to be able to have the ability to control how much body fat I have in a way that I feel really good when I train, because I've gotten to a point of having not enough extra body weight. I didn't stay there for very long. It was like maybe a couple weeks. And I was like, I don't like this. Training feels bad. So I like to be able to have enough extra body fat to train well and recover, but not so much that I can still feel really confident in a bikini. And I want to be able to do that as I get older and just feel like I have control. And it's not just my body turning off estrogen projection and me turning into an angry puddle of wrinkles. Like, I want to feel really good. So yeah, I like being able to get to bikini state pretty quickly. That's what it feels like to me, while still enjoying myself. Like, I went to Budapest. I traveled a lot. I had a wonderful Christmas, a wonderful Thanksgiving. I did not feel regretful at all. I enjoyed every bite and every sip. But yeah, I'm still excited to feel what it feels like when there's a state of being. We've talked about it before, where it feels like every calorie has a place. When I'm just going on a walk, when I'm doing my training, after my training, when I'm eating, it's just like, yes, this food is going right to where I need it to go. And I'm excited for how that feels.
Speaking of YNAB and Jesse Meekum, I remember talking to him one time and he described it as the pants test. And he said there's a pair of jeans that he puts on where when he's a little fluffier than he likes, he can tell he's sort of spilling out.
Over.
And I kind of have a similar one where it's like a seatbelt test. There's a certain size I get to when I put the seatbelt on. I feel like I'm squeezing out like Play-Doh or something. I'm like, oh, okay, that's the limit. Time to spend some time a little bit closer to baseline.
Yeah. I have a really short torso. And so when my waist just gets like half an inch bigger, all of a sudden I just look like a rectangle of a human. And so if I could get my waist visible by, either making my shoulders and butt bigger and or my waist smaller, then that feels enjoyable for me.
The thing that has surprised me most in the journey is that, and this may be that because I've also spent a lot more time cooking over the last 5 years, which can be a big hurdle for many people, is just time available to cook. Between COVID and working from home more, I've been able to cook more, or I've had to cook more in many cases. I've been surprised, though, how much making good food and eating good food is actually also the thing that best supports my training and what feels good. And that feeling of like every calorie going to the right place. It's not because I've weighed and measured every calorie and I know exactly where it's going. It's just that over time, I've learned to construct meals that I love that also just feel amazing. Like when I eat the breakfast that I tend to eat as my quote unquote baseline, my body is just like, thank you. That is exactly what I wanted.
Thank you.
And it just so happens that also has an awesome amount of protein, carbs, and fat and fiber. The things that I think are the most useful, objective things that you can measure relatively easily with food without going down the whole micronutrient rabbit hole. But because it's all whole food and vegetables and real, eggs and meat, and I'm also getting a lot of really good micronutrients, which I think is part of the equation that contributes to feeling really good and recovering and sleeping well and, being able to train well. That's what's been interesting to me, is that it's not some secret combination of supplements or crazy things that you need to eat, ridiculous amounts of protein or ridiculous amounts of vegetables. It's actually when you get to a really well-made, like you look at these meals that I think I make on a regular basis, they look like well-balanced plates of food that you want to eat.
They do.
That's been my fun part for me. I don't feel like I'm having to like shoehorn in a crazy amount of food or a crazy kinds of supplements to be able to hit or to eat a good baseline.
Yeah. Well, on that note, we're going to wrap it up here. Next week, we're going to help you figure out how to define what you want. Because if you're going to have a roadmap to go somewhere, it's good to have some target destination, target feel. And so we're going to get into that. And then we're going to talk about the baseline, because you are going to come back to that many times throughout your life when you get really consistent with making choices that support how you want to feel and how you want to train. And then we're going to talk about challenges you're going to encounter, that like social, travel. Gosh, there will be plenty. So we will see you here next week. Thank you so much for listening. We're really excited to be back with you in 2025. Thank you for listening. If you think this would be useful to someone, please share. Please give us a comment and give us some reviews. Till next time.
Bye-bye.